Hello and welcome to a KCA AI event. Our AI task force put together a nice little part two. As you recall, last month we hosted the AI 101 for construction professionals. Mike Kline, who's on the panel today, did a great job. And from that discussion, we wanted to take it a step farther. So our task force worked with the panel you're about to meet in a minute, and we created today's program, which is titled AI Beyond the Basics. And I think you are gonna like what you hear. And we're gonna kick it off here in a second here. So hopefully you see my screen there. But yes, welcome to Beyond the AI Basics for AI for construction professionals. Glad you'd be with us today, and we are excited, like I said. Oops, is this working? Okay, it's working. So here's today's lineup here. Unfortunately, you will hear me talk throughout today. I am the moderator, so I apologize in advance. I'll see what I can do. We do have a rock star panel here of AI experts here, and we're going to meet them right now. So without further ado, who do we have on the line with us today? First, instead of just reading their bio, I thought it would be good to put it up on the screen, and you can hear you could read their bio and see their contact information, but they could give their self-introduction. And the question that we want to hear from our panel today is, why are you on the panel today? First up, Ken Jones.
Thanks, John. And I'm on the panel today because I don't think there's a more important thing going on in technology today than AI. And as you can see from my bio, I'm part of Business Information Group. We've been in business for 35 years. Our specialty is construction, IT. I'm one of the owners. Been with the company for 27 years myself. So I really do appreciate this opportunity to talk about AI. It is transformational, and I don't know that there's been anything this big for quite a long time.
Thanks, Ken. That's Ken Jones, COO of Big Business Information Group. We're excited to have you with us today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mhm.
Next up, Michael Kline, who we met last month on the AI 101. For those of you not with us, Mike's going to give his intro now, but he's the founder of ThinkLab. His contact info is on the screen, and take it away, Mike.
Thanks, John. I'm glad that Ken started out on a serious note because I was going to say that I'm here just because I know you. But the reality is, I think, Ken, you hit the nail on the head. We've all seen AI everywhere these days, and it is transformational on a daily basis. The things that I talked about last month, or what was it, February, I think, whenever we did the AI 101, have even changed since then. And so it's evolving at such a rapid pace. I think it's important to hit on these topics regularly, especially with folks who are on the front line in business and in construction, to help you guys understand what to expect and how to approach it, and some of the best ways to integrate it into your business. I think it's not good enough to just ignore it. It's not going to go away. It's not going to be a fad. So let's seize the moment and dive right in. So I'm here to help talk along those lines.
Awesome. Great to have you back for round two, Mike.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Awesome. And third on the panel, we have our legal expert here, Travis Gary, attorney for K&L Gates. His information is on the screen with his contact info. Travis, why are you on the panel today?
I'm on a panel because John thinks it's always a good idea to have your lawyers involved, and I happen to agree with him. So thanks, John. But it's one of those. I want to echo, what Ken and Michael said about how, AI, it's here. And I thought, Michael, your comment about, you can't just ignore it. I look at it from a business perspective, not from my legal perspective, but just to chime in from a business perspective. You can ignore it, but you do so at your peril because the environment is so competitive out there that if you've got, companies that are integrating AI into everything they do, and that means they can do it quicker, faster, cheaper, you're going to get outbid. And that's just a reality that you have to face. Now, that being said, as with everything, there are risks, and you have to make sure that you're, following the right regulatory and legal landscape and not getting yourself in trouble. And I'll chime in as we go on some of those potential issues.
Awesome. Glad to have you here, Travis. Looking forward to your comments. Okay, so that's the last slide there. So we are going to stop sharing the screen there. That was our panel. There's their faces. I don't know if the faces were appearing on your screen or not. Hopefully they were. Ken just stayed up on my screen. But now you see all the
I'm sorry about that.
faces. No, you all look great. This is awesome. But yeah, so for today, we have broken this into various areas that we're going to cover. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Myself and the panel hopefully we catch them and see them and we'll ask them, or you could raise your hand and we can call on you. But first, I'd like to jump in and start talking about AI in practice. Maybe Ken could kick this off here. But like, what's actually working? Could you share some real examples in business today?
Sure. I would say that in the real world, you're seeing a lot with scope of work contracts, whether people are using just the generative AI with ChatGPT or the like, or there's specific products out there that can review contracts for you. You see a lot of that. Invoicing, AP invoicing and decision making. It's heavy. The other one that I know we're seeing a lot of is on the estimating side. Drafting and clash detection support are pretty heavy, and I'd seen a number. I believe it was close to 50% efficiency gained just on bidding and scoping work that they're seeing. And then finally, I think we're all seeing it today. I'm sure there's like 20 different AI chatbots in this room already taking notes. That's a big usage today, obviously, and I think it's pretty successful. It's over the last 2 years. It's impressive how much more accurate those note-taking capabilities have become.
Absolutely. Yeah, so for today we're gonna jump around in some different areas, and I might call on some panelists. I might just throw it out there and see who answers. But I would like to hear from Mike here as well, following up on AI 101. You had a lot of talk on AI in practice, and there was talk about what tasks AI does better than humans, and you made some other comments about return on investment type of deal with AI. So I don't know if you wanted to chime in either on Ken's comments or start something new, some new comments.
Yeah, I think Ken was a great summary, and you're seeing a lot of and there are some numbers out there. Companies are seeing ROI, especially when it comes to time saved, and using things like these estimating tools, or takeoff tools, or things that are job site related. And the other area where they're seeing ROI is in sort of your mundane office task savings. People are using AI to summarize their emails and go through their email inboxes, or summarize meeting notes. Proposals as well. I know that in my own line in the consulting business, a proposal can take 8 hours to do if you write it out by hand. But if I have my proposal generator do it, it bangs right through it in a minute and a half. So that's another place where you see it in practice is office tasks. And I'll say, in addition, like the Microsoft 365 package has Copilot integrated into it. If you're using Google as your office software, you've got Gemini embedded in that. So a lot of these core operational things have AI embedded now to really help with the efficiency of office work.
Nice. Any other comments for our panel before we move on here? As Travis said, it's always good to have your attorney nearby and involved in big talks like this. And when it comes with AI, there's always questions and comments related to legal and the risk. Just kind of let's hear from Travis now. Like, what's kind of keeping our leaders up at night? Like when it comes to data ownership, who owns the AI generated work, and what sort of risks are out there, and just kind of what are your comments, Travis?
Well, I just think it's interesting because it is so new and it is, I mean, it's literally evolving every day. And when you get to, who owns what are you talking about? Are you talking about the underlying data that you're inputting into the tools, or are you talking about, whatever it is that's being generated after churning all the, information inside, whether it's a proposal or a summary or an article or, whatever you're doing. And I think, from what should keep you up at night are the issues that, I'm sure you're going to hear this, well, you heard it in the AI 101 and you're going to hear it repeated today. Um, Keep in mind that whatever AI tool you're using, it is just that. It is a tool. It does not replace the professional. So, risks involved. You use AI to generate a proposal for a large construction contract. Well, it doesn't matter if AI, hiccuped or hallucinated or, whatever you want to call it, and had underlying errors in its, calculus. You submit the proposal, you're not going to be able to go back later and say, well, AI did it wrong, and you're stuck. If you're using AI to, do your construction schedule, same thing. So whatever your final AI generated project is, make sure it's being looked over by human eyes, and you're essentially testing all of the work that's involved. That to me, that's one of the biggest risks that I see.
Definitely. And legal and risk. I mean, that topic alone, we could spend the next couple hours
Yeah.
talking about it.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't want to rush right over. I don't know if Michael
I
can.
would, I would just, yeah, I would just add on top of that. I think Travis is absolutely correct on that. And this is IT. It's no different for anyone else who's on here. For the other software, the other technologies you've used, you need governance involved with it, and you need the human oversight. You cannot allow the AI to run on its own per se, right? Take it and just give it to a client. I completely agree with Travis. And no free tools. I think that's really imperative too. I would certainly recommend, if you're going to use AI, get the paid versions. Make sure you understand contractually what they are allowed to keep and what they share with the public, depending on what that tool is. And make sure you have policies in place at your organization on AI as far as what employees can and cannot do. No different than policies you'd have with personal devices, right? Same thought process.
If I could add to that, you guys are going to hear human in the loop throughout today because we had a little pre-discussion about it, and that's something that we all have in common is we know that there's got to be that human in the loop, and that's where you guys as the experts are able to look at the AI and tell when it's hallucinating. And a little technical thing about AI at its core is a prediction engine. So it's when you ask it a question, it's guessing at what it should say next. A lot of the times it's right. Some of the time it's wrong. Some of the times it'll be confidently wrong, so that it's telling you a lie, but it thinks it's telling you the truth. So that's why you have to have that human to check things and make sure that the output is what you expect of it.
Yeah, Michael, can I add? Correct me if I'm wrong, because I like the way you said that. It's a prediction machine. It's going through and summarizing data and predicting what the result would be. But it's also, as I understand it, that depending on the program and what the input data is and all and the training is, my understanding is it's also predicting what you want it to say, and it's
Right.
essentially trying to please you. So you have to be careful that it's it's too eager to please sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you've ever used ChatGPT or Claude or
Yeah,
one of the, the frontier models, the large language models, you'll get a response like, "That's a great idea," or something like that. So it's really gives you effusive praise about the back and forth. Most of them now have the ability for you to customize the kind of feedback you want to get from them and tell it, all right, don't BS me. Don't just be, glad handing here. Be honest with me. Be brutal if you have to. So
yeah.
you could set that temperature to how you want it to react to you. So as you get into AI, and you're using one of the paid platforms, that would be a key thing to do, I think, based on what Travis is saying. Certainly, don't let it blow smoke. You want to you want it to be honest with you and accurate.
And I think the we talk about prompts when you ask a question, the technical term, right? So the when you're asking it, I think it's always a good idea to double down and ask your question, then state, explain to me how you got to this answer.
Yeah.
And I know Tavis and we all talked earlier about the famous Michael Cohen case, right? The lawyer who had supported Donald Trump at one point, and he was out of jail and in federal court, and he was looking for cases that might help his case, and he used Google Bard at the time in 2023, gave him bad cases. He gave it to his lawyers, and his lawyers just immediately sent it to the federal judge, and they got in a little bit of trouble, as you can imagine. And Tavis, I think you said that's a pretty regular occurrence in the courtroom right now, right?
We're seeing maybe not on a daily basis, but at least on a weekly basis, we get alerts where some lawyer included used AI to generate a brief, and it's got the hallucinations. It's got citations to cases that don't exist, or citations to quotes within cases that don't exist. And the best one that I've seen so far, I will tell you, is it was a January of last year where it was an expert submitted a report, and the expert's report included citations to non-existent academic articles. Now, the beauty of it is that the issue he was an expert on the dangers of AI and misinformation. So, I mean, it happens to, it's happening to a lot of people out
Yeah,
there.
yeah, that's classic. But that's really no different than go back 10 plus years ago, probably 20 now. Boy, I'm aging myself. The beginning of the internet, right? And when
Yeah.
when you would use that. So before that, we would use encyclopedias. Some might remember those names, but when we used
Mhm.
the internet, it was certainly something that you would feel comfortable at least using as a tool to gather information. And today you
Yeah.
wouldn't think twice about using it as a tool to gather information. But I
Yeah.
think the key is you still will look at that information on the internet and you'll typically challenge yourself to say, is that right? Or let me double check. Let me look at other sources. And I think
Yeah.
it's too easy with AI just to go, oh, well, it was right last time. It'll be right the next time, even though there's a 1 to 3% hallucination lie rate, I think still today with the generative engines, which means every 100 questions, it's probably going to get one incorrect.
The other thing you could do is in those cases where if you don't necessarily have the domain expertise to question what the AI is telling you, double check it with a different AI. Jump from
Mhm.
ChatGPT to Gemini to Claude, or just do a simple Google search. But always check yourself. Make sure
Right.
that it's you know that you believe what it's saying and that it's accurate.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, lots of good comments. Did I tell you we have an expert panel or what? So thank you guys so much. This is awesome so far. So we've heard the bios, we've heard the first couple questions, some answers. I also have some rapid fire questions. These are just quick, short responses here. I'm gonna throw out a few of these bombs throughout the event here today. Here's number one. What's one AI myth you wish people would stop believing? We'll go alphabetical order here first. All right, you're up, Travis.
I would say, and this goes AI, across the board, not related to, the construction field, that it's going to replace people. It will replace some people, but you've heard us say, even from the white collar end, you have to have people in the loop looking over the work. But AI is not going to replace all of the folks out on your construction crews. I mean, AI is not pouring concrete. AI is not driving the trucks. So, be wary of it, but don't be afraid of it. I mean, it is a useful tool, and it's going to help you do your job better.
Yeah. Ken, what's one myth you wish people would stop believing?
I think there is, I think people tend to believe that AI understands the way humans do things, right? So I completely agree with Travis, by the way. I love that. And I love the CEO of NVIDIA who always says AI is not going to replace your job. Someone who knows AI will replace your job. So I think that's really important to point out. But, it is, it doesn't have any true understanding or awareness or intent. The AI doesn't. So that's really something I think you need to keep in mind. It will lead people to over trust the outputs or assume they're correct, right? Just like we were talking about.
Yep. Michael?
I think it's not so much of a myth as it is, how specific you need to be to use AI. General commentary and back and forth with AI is a lot of times not going to get you very accurate responses. So the more accurate and specific you can be in your chats with AI, the better the output you'll get. It very much is a garbage in, garbage out platform. And so that's, it's not really a myth per se. I think, Travis and Kent kind of hit the nail on the head. I am interested to see how this people being replaced by people who know AI actually plays out. I haven't actually seen evidence that there's a lot of hiring going on where they're saying, we need a project manager who knows AI, or we need an office manager who knows AI. It seems to me within industry in general, there's a lack of idea about how to approach AI in a lot of cases. So I'm waiting for that to show up where people who know AI are replacing people who don't.
Awesome. Yeah, like I said, we'll have a couple quick hitters, throughout the today's discussion here. But now we're going to jump into cybersecurity and data protection. Maybe we'll start with Ken. He had a lot of good comments last week when our committee met. Kind of touch on how AI increases security capabilities and vulnerabilities, and kind of guardrails needed. You just want to touch on some of those topics.
Sure. Why? And we've got a security arm at Big. That's not my intent. I'm not trying to sell that, but what I would stress to you is that the tools we use today to monitor our clients have changed. They've evolved. They now include AI. So in the past, we would have to look through the logs, individual details to confirm what's happening. But AI's radically changed that, which is a good thing, right? So, and today, more important than ever, that you can't trust just one individual on your team to handle everything IT. There's too many complexities. It's a different market. If you have one person or one group of people who are fixing your servers and your laptops and also handling the cybersecurity aspects of your work, you're in trouble, because that AI is being used today in really nefarious ways. Scary. We talked about the story together about that just about 2 weeks ago. There was they believe it was a Russian used AI to break into over 600 networks that use FortiGate firewalls. And that Russian used AI to create the scripted code that would go through and allow that to happen, right? One of the other stories that I love to tell is that Hong Kong, a bank in Hong Kong, was phished. Everybody knows the word phished, but they were phished using a Zoom call like this, where they believed they were talking to the CEO of their company, and the CEO was telling them to wire $25 million to a location, which of course was bad actors, and that bank lost $25 million. So there are people out there today using the AI, using these tools to scam, and it's scary. So you better make sure that you have your own tools in place and you've doubled down on that security, and that you have the right people involved to help you make those right decisions. So you need some good guardrails.
Yep. And Ken's comments remind me, not everyone paid for it today, so if you could wire your money to me, that would be no, just kidding. No, but I don't know if Mike or Travis have anything to add on there, and maybe how do you vet AI platforms? What comments do you
Yeah,
have?
yeah, because I would say, from the security standpoint, not so much as a breach of a bad actor coming in and hacking you and getting your information, but as I understand it, particularly if you're using one of these off-the-shelf public, AI platform tools, Mike said earlier, garbage in, garbage out, focus on in and out. I mean, you put information in. If you're taking, all of your internal data on how your company operates and you're uploading that into the language model so that the AI can, look at that and put it together and come up with an estimate, you've just uploaded it to the world. I mean, it's we don't think of that as a data breach because, well, maybe we do, but when I think data breach, I think somebody coming in and stealing your information. But in that sense, you're just freely giving it away. And a lot of what companies, their internal workings on how they put proposals together is to a certain degree proprietary. And once you release that information, it's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, and you guys, as I don't know how many business owners we have in the room, but business owners, executives, people who run the company generally aren't going to do that. But who on your staff might do that?
Right.
They're looking for simple and easy ways to do their jobs better. If you don't have any governance in place or any guardrails on how people are going to use AI within your company, that can lead to exactly what Travis is saying.
And as far as vetting AI platforms, I think the comment was made at least once as far as if you go paid route, if you have a paid platform, it's better than the free one. But even the paid one, I know you probably have comments on that, Ken and Mike and Travis, but do you have any comments related to the paid ones too? Like how do you vet them and how do you?
I'll jump in on this one because it's interesting. This is the Wild West right now with AI. Like it's been so for the past 3 years, and it's not slowing down. It's only going to get worse because right now it's easier than ever to create other AI models with AI models or build your own software platforms. And so it's getting harder and harder to vet them. So it doesn't. I'll give you an example. I got a call from a guy last week who wanted me to become an advocate for their platform. And the way I vetted him was I went online, I went on their LinkedIn and I'd searched for this guy. And we had a conversation. I actually spent 30 minutes on the phone with him, or a Zoom call, I should say. And he seemed very credible. But when I went to check out his LinkedIn, he didn't have a LinkedIn. The company had a LinkedIn, but he wasn't listed on the company LinkedIn. And when I went to their website, there was no about page that talked about their leadership team. And so to me, that was a red flag saying, okay, these guys might have a real use case for AI, and they might eventually have a good platform, but there's something sketchy about not being very forward and open about the business that you're building. So I kind of swept them by the side and told them I wasn't interested. So you can do that kind of research into these, platforms that might sound fantastic, but it might be too good to be true. A lot of standard research that you might do to verify the bona fides of a company might still work here. But I think you're probably safer sticking with the 800-pound gorillas or the young gorillas becoming 800-pound gorillas, the companies that are getting investor dollars who are growing at a rapid pace. They might not be around in a couple of years if they peter out, but At the same time, they have real money behind them, and so they might have more credibility than some of your fly-by-nights.
I think the other thing to add in there, Travis, I'm sure you're going to appreciate this. You got to read the contract, right? It's no different than anything else that we've got out there. You wouldn't buy an accounting package, or at least I hope you wouldn't, without contractually making sure that you're safe to put your employee social security numbers in that product, right? You'd want some type of a semblance of confidence that it's a trusted company. So I think it goes hand in hand to a degree with what Michael was talking about. You need to review that contract, know what you're liable for, what they're liable for, and they should be liable to some degree on the information they're giving you if you're paying them. Now, if you're not paying them, then again, probably not going to get any contractual agreements, right?
Yep.
I think just to jump back on that, Ken, one of the great things that people can do is look for security certifications, or data security like GDPR, SOC 2, or, CC, I think it's CCPA or some other things that talk about how information and data is protected. And that's a good signal for companies who are taking it seriously.
I was getting ready once this question was answered, just to remind people, we're talking about some big topics here: legal, cybersecurity. If you have any questions, put them in the chat or raise your hand or whatever. And I see a question has come in from Jeffrey Lynch. How are we doing, Jeff? I don't mind reading this. If you want to say it, let me know. Let's see. My screen's a little messed up here. Is AI being used to create LinkedIn people? I have received some sketchy people. If so, what's their end game?
I'll try to help on this one. I think a lot of times it's being used to create a network where they appear like they're a credible individual. So they're giving you something where they can then look like they're credible to other people because you're part of their LinkedIn network. What are they going to do with that? They might be trying to sell other people things, right? They might be trying to do something from a social engineering perspective. But more than likely, sooner or later, it's going to end up being a scam or some type of phishing link, something fraudulent, I would say.
Yeah, and I think it's not. I mean, the LinkedIn is a good example, but it's certainly not limited to LinkedIn, and it's one of those. Is AI? Yes, I think people are using AI to create fictitious accounts across all of the social media. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever it is, and for a number of reasons. It's a giant phishing scheme where they want to get access to all of your contacts, so then they can go out and, either sell them or target them to get them to give up information, or, a propaganda machine. You name all kinds of, bad actors out there. But, how many of you, I'm old, so I still use Facebook. And, I have to laugh because every once in a while, I get a friend request from somebody who I've never heard of. And I can tell from the picture that he or she really doesn't want to be my friend. It's a
Yeah,
scam. And it's the same thing across all the platforms.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told this story a couple of weeks ago. It might have been to Michael. I forget who it was, but I received a LinkedIn request, and I didn't know the person, but we had a bunch of mutual connections and construction related, so I accepted it. And it turned out they openly said that they are the AI bot created from their company, and they want to promote organizations like KCA that have a podcast. And in return, we just asked that when you see our company, if you could promote us or whatever. So I'm like, whatever. I thought it was interesting. They openly said they're an AI bot. So,
Yeah.
all right. Any other questions? Feel free to drop them in the chat or raise your hand, like I said. So we will move right along here. Let's talk about the workforce impact that AI is having. I don't know who wants to go first. I'll just throw it out there. How is AI changing roles, not eliminating them? How is this happening? And as a follow up, like what skills should professionals develop now in the age of AI?
Uh, I can take a stab at this. It's so the way I don't know if you've heard of vibe coding, right? Vibe coding is a new way of developing software where you don't have to be a software engineer. All you have to do is go to a platform and tell it what you want to build, and it'll build it. And so what it's really done is drastically changed the software engineering industry because now that ability is open up to pretty much anybody who has an idea. So ideas and experience, frankly, if you're a domain expert, and by that I mean you're a professional, you're a lawyer, or an IT professional, or an association executive, and you've got accumulated years of knowledge, you can now take those ideas and turn them into a marketable package without the need of a software engineer. So that has really changed the game vastly for putting products out, especially software products. So that's one way that the warp speed development has affected the industry, or an industry, I should say.
I think one of the things we're going to see, and it's not quite here today, but it's coming. Salesforce is a great example. They cut their staff by about half, is what we've heard, right? So while we say it's not going to replace your job, they are augmenting the way they are working, some of their efficiencies, that's for sure. So there is some of that going on in the marketplace today. Further, a lot of those large technology companies aren't using interns like they have in the past. There are a lot of large construction, engineering, A&E firms that aren't bringing on the interns like they have in the past. And you've probably heard stories about this. I would assume many of you have heard stories about this. The average individual who uses AI effectively is much more effective in their day-to-day job. So they're not as dependent on having an intern to do some of that work where they have in the past. So I do think while there's not an issue today, there will be an issue within the next several years. How does that person who's just come out of college learn their skill set effectively if they're not getting the opportunities they were before? So I think that our high schools, I think our colleges need to quickly adapt to the idea of using AI. I think some of them are, but I think we really have to have a concerted effort as a society that we're training AI so that when they come out of school, that's a skill set they have immediately that will help them in the employment.
And speaking of that, new hires and new employees, when it comes to the training mindset and the AI mindset, are you seeing it more embraced at a younger age than an older age? And are you seeing they don't fear it as much? Or is it still too young just to kind of get a feel for it?
I think personally, and this is kind of ironic, right? But I think personally, because normally you think of technology with youth, but I do think if you're going to use AI in your business, we've already said you can't use it without human oversight. So the youth are probably more susceptible to using it in such a way that they could get them in trouble. Or there's probably more stories that you'll find out there where maybe they sent an email to their boss, which was incorrect, or had bad information because they didn't know the difference, right? So I think that someone who's older understands technology and how to at least ask the questions, but even more importantly, how to tell good information versus bad, they'll succeed. So that's a personal opinion. I have no facts on that.
Another area, kind of going along with that, I think this is a fascinating area to watch, and I think studies are already starting to verify what I'm about to say. When you've got the younger folks coming out of schools, if they have been overly reliant on AI, they're not going to be equipped to do the work that we need them to do. Because, we've been saying keep a human in the loop, and for what purpose? To pressure test the AI product. So, if you're coming out and, you can't you've relied on AI to do everything. How do you can't get out the Rand McNally Atlas and check whether the directions are right because you never learned how to read a map because you just went to Google Maps. Or, you can't, in my field, you can't test the legal citations because you never learned how to do legal research because you just used, Westlaw's AI tool. Same thing, how are you going to test if the project schedule, all the critical path nodes are right if you've never done it other than through an AI tool?
Yeah.
It's funny. You both kind of hit the nail on the head, Travis. I have to tell you, so a story. My wife is a school teacher, and as you can imagine, she has kids who can't tell time with hands on a clock.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
Yeah.
an old school example. I mean, we've had
Yeah.
digital clocks forever, but you're seeing like things as mundane as that, and I think it's a very real problem. And Ken, to kind of answer your question, I've read. I know there are studies out there that don't have in front of me, but older workers do have a better time, an easier time adapting to AI. A lot of times because we've been through that uh, digital revolution from, the first IBM PC Junior in the 80s all the way up through the internet coming around through social media and now AI. We've seen all those changes. In a lot of cases, many of us have been involved in those changes. And so adapting to another new technology is not a huge deal for us. And when you possess all the experience that we do, and you can call BS on AI, whenever it hallucinates on you, that makes us ideally suited for that. I think older workers are much better positioned to handle AI for those reasons.
Yeah. Okay, before we get off the workforce impact topic, I was just wondering if anyone has comments related to the use of AI in recruiting, onboarding, or retention. I read a lot of articles, but if you guys have any real life examples here, just wondering.
I've heard of onboarding platforms that have been AI generated. Um, and maybe there's something that's a process that people go through with AI generated videos and so forth. I don't have direct experience with that, but I've heard and seen of some that are in use.
Okay.
I think what it does offer up is, as a recruiter, you might not always understand the position, but if you use the AI platforms effectively, it should be able to help you with generating some of the questions you might be able to use or ask to help validate individuals in the recruiting process. So I do think that that's possible to do. Now, you still have to be careful with that, right? You have to validate that information that it is credible. Again, ask it to explain why it came up with the questions it does, or what validity those questions would have for that position is probably more effective. But I personally used it in those situations too, where I've asked it to look through prompts on questions to ask, and it's pretty effective, even when I'm not 100% knowledgeable on the position.
Yeah. Okay, what do you say? Let's get another rapid fire question going here. And we'll go reverse alpha order here. So Mike's up first here. What's one tool or platform or habit when it comes to AI that you wish professionals should try?
Um, the easiest entry point into using AI is Claude AI or ChatGPT. I wish if you haven't used AI yet, go make yourself a Claude account, pay the $20 per month for a couple of months to get the paid account, and start using it for things like brainstorming or summarizing emails or summarizing meeting notes or simple things that'll help save you some time in your daily task. I wish people would just start there and throw caution to the wind. It's not. I know it can be scary, and we talked about some boogeyman stuff here, but I think if you're careful about how you interact with it, it's not a big deal. Just dive into it.
Yeah. Travis, what's a platform or
Yeah,
habit?
I think that's exactly what I was going to say. Start small. Don't be afraid. Get over that initial reluctance and start using it for small things that you do on a daily basis, like reviewing and summarizing emails, updating your bio, just simple things like that. And of course, keep a human in the loop. Make sure you go back and pressure test, and make sure that the summary of the email is actually capturing what the email said in an accurate fashion. But start there, and then the more familiar you get with it, the better you'll be able to prompt, and the more comfortable you'll get, and before you know it, you're saving yourself hours a day.
Nice. Ken?
Definitely using the tools, testing them out, right? Getting your feet wet, just like both these esteemed gentlemen said. What I would add in there is get used to asking AI to ask you questions when you're looking to do something that's maybe more strategic or larger in nature. If you're looking to put together a strategic plan or some type of engagement letter, don't just give it the facts and say, "Hey, give me the output." Give it the facts and then say, "Ask me pertinent questions that you think will better establish the document that I'm trying to prepare or working at." And I think you'll be really surprised at how effective it is. And the questions it asks you is really one of somebody, if you're working collaboratively with somebody else in the room, I think that you'll find the brainstorming session as a real help personally.
Can I, you
Yeah.
just said that just prompted me to, that was a fantastic point. And I'm going
Yeah.
back to, we talked about using it in the workforce area and in recruiting. And all three of us were talking about from the employer standpoint. But if you're a prospective employee, use it. Tell, to say,
Yeah.
to propose questions that I might get in this interview and how to formulate a response.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah, love that.
So we have a question from the chat here. Looks like it comes from Emily. I can read it, or if you want to ask it yourself, let me know. Can our IT department use AI to replace our existing software vendors? Ken, you could probably field that question
Yeah,
with different clients and
I would, my short answer would be no, right? Though I've got a developer background, so I of course want to give you the 50 reasons behind my short no answer. I think that your vendors will start using AI effectively in the tools. And if they're not today, you should be asking them what their roadmap is to incorporate the AI into their tools. They're all looking to do that. Even more importantly, I think there are companies out there that are using AI to ingest the rest of your software's data to give you even better results. So I think a lot of times for those in large construction companies, you're familiar with ERPs. That's been the backbone of the business, at least from my perspective. All the data feeds into the ERPs. These companies that are taking the time and effort to set up tools that ingest the ERP data, the estimate data, the scheduled data. What they're coming back with is data that's much more powerful than the original tools themselves. We're working with a product by the name of Slate AI. We're really excited about what that does, and we've seen that's going to be the future from our perspective on how those things operate. So the idea of, can you create your own tool that that would replace the vendor's software? You might be able to, but again, you're going to need some of the knowledge basis, and I'd have some little fear if you don't have the right individuals involved to help create that. And then you're going to be dependent on the updates. Let's say you do create the ERP product, great, you have it. Now, what are you going to do with the payroll changes every year? You're going to be responsible or on the hook for those items, which might be a little tricky.
I'm gonna disagree with Ken a little bit here and say yes, you can. And I think Ken made some great points, especially about the dependencies and having the knowledge. I mean, if you have an IT staff who is knowledgeable on how, for example, a CRM system works, or something as simple as, like, if you've ever used DocuSign, right? It's easy to create your own apps now using platforms like Lovable or Replit or Bolt that'll let you build these platforms with robust database backends and authorization and security and everything. So in certain cases, yes, you can. It's especially if you're a small company. If you're a larger company with an enterprise system, that's going to be difficult. But if you're a smaller company, I say, 5 to 10 people or fewer in the office, and you have an IT person who's knowledgeable, I think it's completely legitimate to take a run at it. Some of the savings that you can have on those subscriptions that might add up year after year after year, you can hit a break even point in 2, 3, 4 years, but you do have to maintain the software, and so that is kind of the rub. But I think it's doable right now.
Fair.
Thanks, Ken.
Nice. Bet.
Looks like we had a comment here. Let me see. Emily says, thank you. Good job here. Which AI tools are best for protecting your data? The power is in giving access to data, but my concern is, I can't really see that. Oh, here it is. Okay. I'm sorry. Let me try this again here. Which AI tools are best for protecting your data? The power is in giving access to data, but my concern would be inputting sensitive corporate data and not knowing if these companies behind the tools are keeping that secure. Anyone want to jump on that question from Ed?
Yeah, we're a big as a Microsoft shop, so we're going to be jaded on that, right? But Microsoft certainly, and IBM, Watson is probably a good one too, that will help with that governance, right? So there are tools built into the Microsoft platform and the IBM. Those are the two I know of offhand that offer up governance options to help protect and review and validate what your employees are doing. But the most, that goes back to the whole idea of, you need that IT policy. I think in today's world, if you say you can't use AI, they're going to go outside to use AI, to free tools. Again, what you don't want. So offer up the tools that will allow you to put in the governance so that you can monitor what's being put in securely, and that you have some safeguards, right? So they're not throwing out everybody's social security number to check and see who's got the best credit scores or things like that.
Yeah, I like the 800-pound gorilla approach still, much to Ken's point. Microsoft and IBM and companies like that. One of the things that a lot of the newer vendors are doing now, it's called SOC 2 compliance, and that stands for System and Organization Controls 2. And that's basically a voluntary compliance standard that these companies can try to meet to certify that they are handling data, or that their data is handled securely, that it's not used to train competitor models and things like that. So, if you're going with a smaller company, I would look for that SOC 2 compliance um, before you sign on the dotted line.
That's a great point. SOC 2 compliance is going to give you some extra safeguard there.
Yeah.
And also just from a simple perspective, ask yourself, what information are you providing and why are you providing it? If it's information that is not necessary for whatever output you're looking for, I mean, do you need to upload social security numbers if if you're just asking it to summarize some data or prepare a proposal? So and that goes to the going back to the question about vetting your providers. If you've got a platform that's asking you to upload the entire universe of your internal data, I would question why.
Ed said thanks. Good response to that question. Ken, you got a comment?
I was just going to say the Microsoft tool is called Purview, Purview.
Awesome. Let's see, moving right along
And
here.
and we can help with that. Boy, I know this isn't a sales pitch, but yeah, I might as well put that in there, right?
You might as well. And we'll make sure to
Yeah,
get the contact
yeah,
info out for our panel.
yeah. We can recommend K&L Gates too later on.
There you go. Nice. And Ed's heard of that purview, so that's good. Good
Good,
stuff.
good.
Um, Anyone have any kind of questions or comments related to ethical use and responsible AI? I mean, there's biases in AI models. Is there a way to adjust to that, or a way to fix that, or a way to what do you do when it comes to the biases?
Well, I think it goes back to that idea of being able to ask where it got its examples from if you're using it to do statistical research, for example, right? If you're doing that, then you have every right to ask AI, how did you come to that conclusion? What data were you fed to come up with that? So any generative AI, which is what we've really been talking about, that's based on a large language model where there's just a mass amount of information loaded into it. So they might get a mass of information on construction companies from the Southeast that are over $500 million in annual revenue. And if that's how that large language model was loaded with data, and you're a small contractor from Pennsylvania, the facts that it's going to be working with are very different than what you do on a daily basis, right? So it is well worthwhile asking, and AI will rightly give you the answer to support on that. It is up to the AI companies to be ethical about what they're doing. You sure hope that they stand by those principles, but it's worthwhile asking too.
Are there any, speaking of that, are there any good like publications or speakers, beyond this great panel here, but anyone that kind of talks about ethical, unethical AI platforms out there, any sort of concerns people might have? Is there info sharing anywhere out there? I just thought of that when you made that comment.
Well, I think Claude is the one, and Michael, Travis, please feel free to pitch in, but Claude is certainly the platform that's really stressed their intent to be ethical as a core with their product. If you've seen the news, then you know that's the case. The military had asked them to give over all rights to their AI for certain functionality, and they refused to do that, which is going to cost them, I'm sure, a lot of money. I don't know how much. Back up and running. Yeah, I was going to say we're not a.
Hey, how's it going? John O'Brien here with Mike Kline. You might have noticed a little glitchy part at the end of that video. We actually had about 30 more minutes of the seminar left, but for whatever reason, my office lost complete power, and I was kicked off the internet for a couple minutes. I was able to come back at the very tail end of the seminar, but when I was kicked off, the recording stopped. So we lost the recording. Mike Kline from ThinkLab, one of the panelists, has offered to let us know what we missed in the recording. So he's going to fill us in. We got through all the areas, and during the AI governance and policy discussion, my power was taken away. So Mike's going to fill us in. What did we miss, Mike? What's going on here?
This was the most crucial part of the whole session. So you missed a ton. No, it actually wasn't. I want to give a shout out to my fellow panelists, Ken and Travis. They kept the conversation flowing along, and Ken especially was crucial in kicking off this discussion. So just some highlights for everybody of what we hit. I think the main point was when it comes to AI governance and policy, have a policy and follow it. This is something that really Travis emphasized, that it's not enough just to have a policy, but you need to train employees on it and enforce it. The policy should define things like acceptable platforms, what data can be used, what AI can and can't be used for, who reviews outputs, and how many sets of eyes are required. So the important thing to keep in mind is, that don't just create a policy and set it on a shelf. Make sure that it's enforced. Another point that was brought up, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 key points. Actually, it might have been six key points. So that was number one. The second one was democratic policy development. We recommended a bottom-up approach, and that was mostly because you want to gather input from employees across departments to understand their actual needs before writing the policy. People who know their jobs the best will be in the best position to identify where AI can improve efficiency. So if you take a top-down approach and you just dictate without understanding the needs, there's no way that you can set acceptable OKRs or acceptable ROI on your investment in AI, because your users likely won't adopt the policy that you're doing top down. So get input from the bottom up. Ownership and accountability was the next point. Normally, we find that IT typically owns AI governance, but it's crucial that legal and HR are also involved. If you don't have legal within your company, you probably have a lawyer on retainer. Same thing with HR. Reach out to some professionals and get some input from them, because there are absolutely legal and HR issues that are involved in AI governance and policy. HR is especially important because a lot of employees don't really know how to use AI effectively in their jobs. And so training, it's going to be essential to provide training to those folks. One of the panelists brought up audit and pressure testing. So building auditing into the policy, not just monitoring usage, but reviewing the final AI generated outputs. We very much stress keeping a human in the loop. AI is really, really smart. We mentioned it several times that AI can, what do we call it? It can be wrong convincingly. So you want to make sure that you have an expert human reviewing the output to ensure that it is accurate. We also mentioned for some companies that might have specific data security concerns, there are actually on-premise LLMs, that's large language models, that you can bring in-house and you can host on an internal server. These would be things that would be locked away, wouldn't have access to the internet. So if you wanted to use an AI agent or a large language model that wouldn't let your data outside of the building, you can get one that is on-premise. It's a little bit more expensive, but it offers complete data control and faster processing for mission-critical applications. So that is an option for some companies. And then the last big point was acceptable use guidelines. You want to be specific about what data employees can and cannot input. For example, you don't want to putting personally identifiable information from employees, like employee identification numbers or client EINs, sensitive personal data, financial information from the company, any kind of account information. That stuff should never ever be put into AI. That's stuff that you want to avoid doing there. And then the last thing we said was don't just ban AI. I mean, AI is here. You're going to have to deal with it. You're going to have to work with it. It is going to make your company, I think, a lot more efficient if you can incorporate it in ways that are advantageous for your company. And so if you ban it, all you're going to do is get people who are curious about AI. They're going to use it outside of your company using your company information, or they might use it inside the walls, but unauthorized by you. So the best thing is come up with these policies and guardrails, give people the ability to use it under a controlled environment, and that'll go a long way towards helping your company with adoption. So that was the biggest points of it that at least I can recall that I have notes on. So if you missed that part, that's a good summary for you.
Awesome. Well, you, Ken, and Travis just hit it out of the park here. This was an awesome presentation.
Well, thank you.
Tons of great information. Just amazing. I got so many text messages and emails, and that panel was awesome. Let's get them more. And I said, oh, absolutely.
I think
And
we had fun doing it. Those guys are very smart. It was great to be on a panel with them. So I appreciated being in the presence of greatness.
Yep. And I will be sharing the contact info to all. So if you want to have some work or whatever, I know I'm working with Mike on some AI training. So that's an option as well for you and your company. Just keep that in mind. And Travis and Ken as well provide a lot of services as well to the industry. Well, what's that,
I
Mike?
appreciate the shout out. I was going to say, I appreciate the shout out. When I do have, and John can confirm this, I do have a certain amount of construction industry experience. If you check out my LinkedIn or checked out my website, you'll see a lot of that. So happy to work with the people who are building the country.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time twice during the seminar and then today for the recap. So again, apologies for losing power. It's kind of out of my control, but that's what friends are for. You filled in. Thank you, Mike. Thanks.
All right, man.
Awesome.